Good afternoon. This is Michael Wong. I'm the co-chair with Michael Kramer of the Veterans for Peace China Working Group, and this is our YouTube channel, Veterans for Peace with China. My guest today is Dee Knight. Dee is a member of the Advisory Council of the Friends of Socialist China. He also serves on the China East Asian subcommittee of the International Committee of the Democratic Socialists of America. Knight was editor of Amex-Canada, which was published by the U.S. war resistor exiles in Canada from 1968 to 1974. He's also a founding member of the National Council for Universal Unconditional Amnesty, serving from 1973 to 1976. He was a publishing consultant for the United Nations Development Program from 1991 to 1996. He also worked as a publishing consultant for Nicaragua's Sandinista newspaper, Barricada, from 1987 to 1990. And he's published a number of other works. I'd like to show them to you. Hang on, let me just switch to speaker. So this is, let's see, let me look for his first book, which is My Whirlwind Lives by Dee Knight. And it talks about his whole experience during the Vietnam War, as a resistor to the Vietnam War, which he'll talk about a little more in our interview. And he also wrote a book called A Realistic Path to Peace. And it's based on his experience and his years both during the Vietnam War and since, when he's done a lot of work with different countries and different organizations on building peace and finding a path to peace for the United States and the world. And then this is his latest book called Befriending China. China has become a central piece in the global geopolitics of today's world. And Dee has been studying China, he's visited China, and he has a lot of information to share about China. Dee, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. That's really nice that you would introduce all three of my books. They are now available in a series format on Amazon called People Power and the Pursuit of Peace. And the thing I like about that series title is that it unifies the message, which is stated in the title, People Power and the Pursuit of Peace. And it's really it's what I've dedicated my life to, and these pieces have put it together in the context of living struggles. Befriending China, it's actually hard to call that a living struggle because it was such uh, a fabulous and deeply enjoyable revelation to have the opportunity to visit China actually four times in the last 3 years, starting in late 2023 and then going again in 24 twice, and then again last year another time. Each time, really learning in very, very important ways how and why China is not a very promising enemy for the United States because it wants peace. Even though the other side of it is it would be a total disaster for the United States to continue on its aggressive warlike policy against China. Uh, we're seeing right now that in its aggressive warlike policy against Iran, the U.S. is losing. And there's no question that if it could not win against Iran or Afghanistan or Iraq, and certainly not against Vietnam or Korea, it's not going to be able to win a war against China. And the world would be much better served by befriending China. And that's what I went out to see if it could happen. And my discoveries were mind-boggling and very exciting, whether it was in Xinjiang, which the inimitable Secretary of State Mike Pompeo during Trump's first term accused of genocide. He apparently uh, hoped that would distract from the plans for genocide, ongoing plans for genocide against Palestinians, which were uh, all too deeply fulfilled later. Uh, in Xinjiang, there's a thriving economy in which the Muslim Uyghur population represents about half the population. They're doing fine, very well, and it's a totally bilingual province. It's China's primary source of domestic oil production. It's also the border province to, I believe, seven Eurasian countries, including Russia, Kyrgyzstan, numerous stands, including Pakistan. Uh, it's the cotton producing center of China and is also, because it is largely Muslim culture there, it's especially interesting. And one of the things I liked about it is the food, which is great. But it's also interesting because dancing is very prominent in this particular Muslim culture. It's not at all like the stricter Wahhabi sect of Saudi Arabia. It's this second, I forget the sect is called. I think it's the Sufis, the Sufi Muslims, more mystical. And on the other hand, what was that?
Yes, that's correct. They're Sufis.
And they dress beautifully, dance beautifully, and when my wife and I were there together, we danced with them, and it was really great. And we ate with them too, and had a wonderful time. I think my second most satisfying visit was to the southwestern province of Guizhou, which was really a center of the targeted poverty alleviation program in China during the second decade of this century, which completed the lifting out of extreme poverty of about 800 million people, a historic achievement noted by both the United Nations and the World Bank. I got to see it up close and met some of the people who participated directly. I met and became friends with a woman who, in her professional life, was a staff functionary in the Provincial Foreign Affairs Office. She introduced me to a colleague of hers who became a professor in the College of Public Administration in the capital of Guizhou, which is known as Guiyang, who showed us the intricacies of the planning and implementation of that amazing program, which I write about in detail in the new edition of Befriending China. I don't want to spend too much more time. I do, however, want to say that I was also dazzled by visits to both Beijing and Shanghai, where I was interviewed by the people at the China Academy. That interview is available on my Patreon site, Dee Knight's books, notes, and chats. And it was wonderful to be interviewed there. It was also really interesting to see what a throbbing and thriving metropolitan, really mega city Shanghai is, as well as Beijing. These are showpieces of the amazing development that China has accomplished, whether it's incredible mass transit, just everything is remarkable, including the cleanliness of the city. I live in New York City, so Shanghai gets a very favorable comparison in pretty much every aspect. Um, but I do want to turn also to A Realistic Path to Peace. Both of these books are soon to be available in China in Chinese translations, and the Chinese publisher will be bringing out other language editions. I'm very pleased with that. It'll have a different title in Chinese. You've seen this already. I'm just showing it uh, to try to be helpful. I brought out a new edition of A Realistic Path to Peace, which was written a few years back, but I brought it up to date at the end of last year. Uh, of course, the very next thing happened was that in addition to invading Venezuela, the United States invaded Iran as well. It's hard to keep up with the uh, the war making, but it is interesting to see that, ironically, the U.S. invasion and aggression in Iran is leading to uh, almost a miracle of potential peace, which we're seeing on this very day, as today is Saturday, April 11th, and I believe the process of uh, trying to negotiate between the United States and the leaders of Iran is underway in Islamabad, Pakistan. It is unlikely to be completely successful, and this should be understood. I can compare this to the negotiations for peace between the United States and Vietnam way back in starting in 1968 and dragging on for another 5 years till January of 1973. Some of the Veterans for Peace audience are old enough, like you and me, Mike, to remember all that. This was our heyday, and of course, I remember it as if it were last year. The point, though, is that the U.S. government, in its efforts to dominate the world and to prevent any outbreak of either sovereignty or peace in countries that want to be independent from the United States, it's willing to go to great lengths, and using negotiations as a takeoff point for more war is kind of the standard operating procedure. However, we have seen, and it's documented in A Realistic Path to Peace, that current U.S. efforts have largely been failures, and it has also helped us in the peace movement to to pardon me using a religious term, to become reborn, that is to say, remobilized in a significantly larger scale. It was not even 2 weeks ago that over 8 million people mobilized in over 3,000 cities across the United States in No Kings protests. And unlike previous No Kings protests, it was impossible to put a lid on the anti-war feeling. I imagine some of the listeners remember seeing the protest in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where Bernie Sanders was responded to by literally thousands of people chanting "Stop this war," and that was during the gigantic and criminal invasion launched by Trump and his Eagle Scout Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. They're all trying to get the egg off their face right now, hoping that somehow J.D. Vance can save them and their war-making partners from the obvious embarrassment of really total failure in their invasion of Iran. But it's an interesting thing. Uh, Forgive me, I'm wrapping up this segment, but I do want to say that the current moment is a moment in which peace could actually break out, but in a different way that we've seen in recent decades. A peace that would change the world balance of power, giving uh, both meaning and hope to a lifetime, literally a lifetime of resistance and mobilization against the war machine. The subject that is kind of at the center of the memoir, My Whirlwind Lives, which is the first book I wrote, and one that essentially was meant to document my own arrival, my change from being uh, a, a Goldwater supporter from a small town in eastern Oregon to a lifelong peace activist. The other part of that for me is exciting and fulfilling is that uh, this whirlwind, even though it's sure to continue for a while longer and more lives will be lost, could take us to the possibility of uh, a much more peaceful, more equal world where common prosperity can be shared. I
Let's go
think
on
I'll
to the next question because I think that addresses some of what you're getting at right now. Next question was, what are the common points that your books make collectively?
Well, thank you. I tried to emphasize that in the title of the series, People Power in Pursuit of Peace. And that is the unifying element of all three books. Um, I especially like and appreciate the hope I got visiting China. I was there over Labor Day weekend last year to help celebrate the 80th anniversary of China's victory over fascism. And that was interesting. You know, I will turn 80 this year, I'm sorry to say. Although, you know, hey, we can't, there's only one alternative to getting older. Uh, and it was very, very exciting to witness not only what China has been able to accomplish in those 80 years, but also to uh, get the reassurance that the people there are totally confident. The leadership, regardless of how it is viewed uh, uh, by US politicians and NATO leaders, and even by some progressives in this country, as somehow on the wrong path. I found it very much on the right path, a path that does indeed lead to uh, common prosperity and a shared future. And so I think that's something that uh, we can hope for, dream of, and fight for. And it's very much the concluding message of both My Whirlwind Lives and A Realistic Path to Peace. The concluding chapter of A Realistic Path to Peace has a fairly lengthy transcription of an interview with the leader of the Black Alliance for Peace, who called at that time and has continued to call for a united front against imperialism and fascism. And what we've been seeing in recent months is that such a thing is coming into being. And I feel like I should recognize Veterans for Peace in its contribution to that. Veterans for Peace has always been among my favorite voices and forces in the anti-war movement, because obviously it is animated and populated by people who came to their awareness of the problem with the war machine from direct involvement in it. Their heads were turned around, and their lives turned around as their hearts were broken by what they were forced to do and to witness. And so it's been very exciting for me to see Veterans for Peace playing a leading role in the development of this united front. My close friend Jerry Condon, whom I know you know, has been a major leader in this. We go back, as you and I do, all the way to the second half of the 60s and the 70s, when we were working together at that time on amnesty. But now we continue to work together, not merely to stop the war machine and to prevent global catastrophe, but to bring about the possibilities that we have dreamed about for all these years.
Great. Let's go on to our third question then. Can you say how this relates to the current crisis in West Asia? This actually brings us back to what you were talking about with the Iran war.
Yes. Well, I happen to see a direct link between the Vietnamese defeat of the United States back in our young adulthood, between 65 and 75. I see a link between that people's victory and the amazing success of Iran to both stop the United States in its tracks and blunt the ability of the Zionist entity in Israel to continue with its genocide and its effort to wipe out Iran. And what they're doing now, what Iranians have accomplished, is what you could call the potentially concluding chapter of what the Vietnamese started, which was an historic defeat of Western imperialism and neocolonialism, ushering in a new moment in world history. So it's to me, even as we are horrified at the cost in lives and the incredibly insane antics and horrifying words of Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, what we're saying is that they're mainly about words. Yes, it's true that they can announce and try for genocide and brush off the fact that it's a historic war crime that will haunt them to the end of their days, which will hopefully come soon. And they will go down in history along with people like Richard Nixon and McNamara and Westmoreland as utter liars, warmongers who were not capable of achieving any of the success that they trumpeted. And the difference now is that as of today, the Iranian resistance has managed to prevent the genocidal efforts of Trump and Hegseth, while at the same time stopping at the brink before this war could utterly devastate the Western economy. It is still causing significant damage. We all feel it. Any of us who drive feel it when we try to fill up the car's gas tank. It's more painful across the rest of the world. In Europe, energy as a whole has become unaffordable, and it's far, far worse across the global south. Really, it seems that only the countries that are genuinely independent from the United States have managed to avoid the economic hit that this war is causing. But there is hope based on the fact that uh, as of now, the Iranians have fought both the United States and the Zionist entity in Israel to a standstill. Where it goes from here, we don't know. And I notice that anti-war forces are strongly committed to an all-out mobilization on tax day, April 15th, to continue to mobilize against the war makers.
Thanks, that's very helpful. Let's see, our last question is, what is the positive vision for the world that comes out of all your books? I think that's very important because it's, as we see, we're at a turning point in history where the United States in the past has stalemated in Korea, which was a conventional war. We lost in Vietnam, we lost in Afghanistan, we lost in Iraq. Those were guerrilla wars, but once again we've now returned to a conventional war, and it looks so far like Iran is winning the conventional war. And even the New York Times had an article recently that asked, is this our Suez moment, which was the moment when Britain started its decline and the United States took Britain's place as a global power. Now it appears that this might be, according to the New York Times, our Suez moment, in which it's the notable turning point in which the American empire goes into decline. But what would replace it? So you have a vision in your book. Tell us about the positive vision for the world that comes out of all your books.
Well, thank you. That is a very, very challenging question because, there's an old saying, things have to get worse before they can get better. And it is true that the destruction to the Western capitalist economy that Trump has initiated is going to be tough. Prices are already rising, making life very difficult for working people across the country and across the world. But, here in New York City, we have a new mayor, Zoran Mamdani, who campaigned on affordability and won overwhelmingly. Now, I'm not exactly a canvasser for the socialist movement in this country, but there is such a movement, and it's based on the concept of fighting for affordability, which inevitably means transferring the war funds into people's funds to guarantee that everybody can have a home, they can have a job, they can have medical care, education, and an opportunity for a good life. That is the alternative vision that we have to hope for domestically. On the global stage, it really does amount to restoring what you might call common prosperity. That's what the Chinese call it. And what do they mean? It means finding a middle level where there won't necessarily be full equality, but everybody will have enough to have a good life. There will be the benefits of advanced technology, and most importantly, the benefits of peace for everyone. One of the things that is notable in the case of China is that they haven't had a war in decades. In some sense, the last major war they had was against Japanese fascism in World War II. They have been attacked in one way or another by the United States, most notably in both the Korean War in the 50s and the Vietnam War in the 60s and 70s. But they've largely been building peace, not only uh, in regard to the United States and NATO, but more importantly, in through the Belt and Road Initiative and BRICS, building common prosperity with countries across the global South, and really offering to share that with both Western Europe and the United States. A peace that's based on mutual respect, um, what you might call peaceful coexistence, and sharing of possibilities, is a world where we can not only avoid mass deaths from the results of war, whether it's starvation or violence, but we can also transition to a fossil fuel free world where we get our electricity without poisoning the planet. These are things that millions of people have already seen as desirable. And I believe what our job is to make them realistic, to actually usher in a world in which common prosperity is not only the goal, but the reality.
Great, thanks a lot. I think that answers all of my questions. Do you have any other concluding remarks you'd like to make?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Mike, for giving this opportunity. And in addition, I would also like to thank and recognize Veterans for Peace, as I've said before, for the exemplary and very difficult work that it's doing. I'm close enough to the situation to recognize that none of this is easy. People have to get out of their comfort zones in order to do what's necessary to make peace a possibility. And we're in this together. So I want to thank you for the role and contribution that you've made, as well as for helping me.
Thank you, Dee. I'm always very happy to have you on, and I expect that I'll be asking you on in future times to come and speak to our people. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot, and to everybody in our audience out there, thank you.
thank you very much.